¿Por qué me dicen morena si moreno no es color? Yo tengo mi raza y es negra, y negra me hizo Dios. Y otros enredan el cuento llamándome de color, dizque para endulzarme la cosa y que no me ofenda yo. Yo tengo mi raza pura y de ella orgullosa estoy, de mis ancestros africanos y del sonar del tambor. Yo vengo de una raza que tiene una historia para contar, que rompiendo sus cadenas alcanzó la libertad.
Hi guys, my name is Diaspora and I'm here to share with you a story of a superhero, and his name was Benkos Biohó. He was born in the late 16th century into a royal African family of the East Island of Bissau, of the coast of Guinea-Bissau in West Africa. He was a member of the Biohó ethnic group. The Biohó people were not favored by the slavers since they were well known to have a very rebellious nature. It was common among them to commit suicide in slave ships in order to avoid life in chains. In the same way, they were well known for their warlike nature. They were very feisty. Near 1595, Benkos was kidnapped by a Portuguese slaver named Pedro Gomez Reinel, and then taken to what they call the New World, Cartagena de Indias, Colombia in South America. Yeah, exactly. Once in Cartagena, Benkos was clean and stripped from his name, given the slave name of Domingo, then taken to Plaza de la Aduana, when it was then sold to a Spanish businessman, Juan Palacios. By 1596, Benkos' tenacious strength and rebellious nature got him sold for the second time to Spaniard Alonso del Campo in Cartagena de Indias. Life in chains was excruciating, painful, humiliating, dehumanizing, and spirit savages. So when the boat that was transporting him to his second master to the Magdalena River sunk, he saw the first opportunity to escape the brutal treatment of the white Spaniard. But evil wasn't through with him then. And 3 years later, in 1599, he was recaptured into a marshy land of southeast Cartagena. But Benkos, the former African royalty, he was not having it. So he escaped again from the slave port of Cartagena, and this time he took his wife, 10 more slaves, and with him and founded San Basilio de Palenque, then known as the village of the Maroons. Maroons was the name given by the Spaniards to those slaves who escaped. He organized an army that came to dominance to all of the Montes de Maria region. He also formed an intelligence network and used information collected to help organize more escapes and to guide the runaway slaves into liberty territory known as settlements. He used the title King Arcabuco. Benkos was a strong leader who defended his territory and defeated with the dominance and the fearless strength from the brutal Spaniards who didn't want to give out to what they so-called theirs. So in July 18, 1605, Casasola, the governor of Cartagena, unable to defeat the Maroons, signed a peace treaty with Benkos, but this only materialized, listen, this only materialized and acknowledged by the King of Spain, Felipe IV, 8 years later in 1613. 1613, listen, remember that name, that number, recognizing the autonomy of the La Matuna Biohó Palenque as the first free town of slaves in the Americas. 1613. Remember that. Then was accepting the cimarrones as a free man, and they were able to go in and out of the city, dressed in fashion, in Spanish fashion, and armed. This treaty was signed by all parties involved, filed in Sevilla, Spain, making this agreement the first and maybe the last in the world between the Spanish kingdom and black slave rebels. In exchange, the Palenque promised to stop receiving more runaway slaves, cease their aid, escape attempts, and addressing Biohó as a king. They needed to stop doing that. That's how free slaves were able to go in and out of the city. Do you remember that day that I just told you? And the slavery started over here, if I'm not mistaken, 1619. So by then, we already have a town, a whole free town in South America, in Cartagena. For his part, Benkos walked with great arrogance, all dressed up in the latest fashion with a gold dagger and a gold sword, and as one of the most luxurious Spanish gentlemen. And the Spaniards hated this. They hated. They couldn't fathom the fact that what they have tried to submit for many, many years, what they saw as an animal only used for heavy work and misery, was now walking in the streets of Cartagena free and carrying himself like one of them. So in 1619, that was happening in 1619, and you Americans were just starting the slavery here. And so in 1619, outside of Cartagena wall, a city guard felt uncomfortable with Benkos' demeanor and pride, privilege that was granted to him after signing the peace treaty with the King of Spain, and still arrest him. When the guards arrived to the governor's house with Benkos captured and in chains, the government was the happiest. But now he had a big problem. He needed to justify to King Felipe IV the betrayal of the treaty. So he wrote a letter to the king arguing that Benkos was dangerous because he commanded great respect among the population. They started the fastest trial the whole time, and the sentence was fulfilled March 16, 1621. Benkos was hanged, dismembered, and all of his pieces exhibit as a lesson to the other Africans. What do you think about this story of this amazing warrior that even though he was in chains, he was always free? He never let the oppression and pain dim his soul. He thought as the free royal king he was, and didn't rest until he broke the chains of himself and his own. So my question to you, when you walk in the streets of your town, when you walk in the streets of your city, when you walk in the streets of the US, are you walking free? Or you still in chains? Listen, San Basilio de Palenque still exists, holding the original lineage and heritage of our maroon slaves, declared masterpiece of the oral and intangible heritage of humanity by UNESCO in 2005. It's about 50 miles east of Cartagena. Thank you for listening. My name is Tuti Baron, and you can find me at Tell of with Tuti podcast, available on all mainstream, Tell of with Tuti TikTok, Tell of with Tuti Instagram, and here in YouTube as Tell of with Tuti. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye-bye.